staff.
But that's Jessica Dyer.
I kind of think so too.
Yeah, I talked with her today.
I have a Jessica in the way. That's all it says. Okay. Sure. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order. This is the Finance and Government Operations Committee of the City Council. 4 of our 5 members are here. I believe our 5th member, who's not quite here yet, should be along shortly. So we'll go ahead and get started. This is a remote or online meeting where all participants will be on a video or audio conference. We are holding this meeting remotely so that everyone can participate safely while we are conducting business under a public health emergency. We appreciate your patience as the FGO committee meeting is conducted this way. Members of the public were given the opportunity to sign up to speak to address tonight's agenda items rather, and council staff informed me that there were no sign-ups for tonight's meeting. Although we will have various department staffers who will be joining us to address any questions the councilors might have, and those joining us today will remain muted until they are called upon to speak. So to start us off, we will move to agenda item A, which is EC 112. Let's see, this is the fiscal year 20 status update for Goal 7, Objective 4, Council Bill number R19-139, enactment number R2019-037, completed new sidewalk notices. I will move a receipt be noted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any questions for staff or administration? Okay, I do have one actually on this. It was mentioned that funding sources for doing this, and in that discussion in the write-up was the possibility for the property owner to have the work done using one of the on-call contractors with the city at his or her own expense. But that in trying to do that, these on-call contractors, many of them are just really busy with other jobs, other work to be done. So my question to the administration would be how we could increase that pool, the options for people to do this. I think it's relatively simple cement work. Is there anyone here who could speak to that maybe?
Madam Chair, Pat Montoya with DMD.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So yes, we can expand that field. Right now, we do provide at the homeowner's request a list of contractors that are able to do that type of work. We're also able to perform that work through our on-call contractors, both in contracts that we have on the engineering side as well as on the DMD CIP side. Right now, we haven't found that to be a problem. Most homeowners where we site or at least work with them to get that sidewalk fixed, they have already reached out to us to ask if we could provide that information to them. So to answer your question specifically, we already have a list of contractors. We use on-call contractors, but that list can be expanded if needed.
Okay. All right. Unless I misunderstood the report, I don't think I did. The staff write-up is that someone, probably plural, has been getting the feedback that that the contractors were busy and not easy to schedule work with them. So we'll just keep an eye on that, I guess.
Madam Chair, I'll follow up on that. I haven't heard of that issue, but I will follow up. And we work with the homeowner. So if for some reason we can't get it within that 90 or 120 day period, we will give them an extension based on either lack of funding on their part, they can't schedule someone to do that, or one of our inspectors does not have the opportunity to go back and re-inspect. So, but I've not, at least the issue hasn't been raised with me at this point.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Director. So we have a motion and a second on receipt be noted. All in favor? Oh, we can't do that. I'm sorry. Oh, see,
Okay.
I'm not used to doing this. Uh, so who calls the roll? Okay, Ms. Hinojosa, would you please call the roll for this vote?
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson.
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. So moving along, item B, EC 113 is the legal department's quarterly litigation report for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2020, a greater than 10,000. I'll move a receipt be noted. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Thank you, Counselor Davis. Counselors, any questions, comments on this? Yes, Counselor Davis.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to ask our city attorney, Mr. Aguilar. First, I want to say I love the way this report comes out because it also tells us about the cases that your team and our contract attorneys were able to close out without any cost or without any judgment against the city. So I love seeing the ones that say that we did our job and we're settled in favor of the city. But I also wanted to ask just really quickly. There was one in particular about a public records request that we were found to be in violation, I think, of the Public Records Act. I know a little about the background of that case from way back when, but I wonder if you can just tell us a little bit about sort of the feedback loop from the city to ensure that we've done a proper training, or what have we done since then, if you know, to ensure that we don't end up back in that spot again.
Thank you, Chair Gibson and Councilor Davis. So the clerk has done a really good job of bringing everything IPRA back and centralizing their handling of it. So to the extent that we are paying claims on matters where those systems weren't in place, I think that he has done a really good job of revising those processes to make sure that we are not having those types of violations moving forward.
And I think I see Mr. Watson in the mayor's conference room, so that's great. I appreciate it. I know this was an unusual case, but those public records things are pretty, sometimes they're just sort of forced errors and ones we ought to try to avoid where we can. So thanks so much for working on that. And thanks to Mr. Watson. Yes, sir.
Chair Gibson and councilors, I want to make a point of just to point out on page 3 of the landscaped table, there is under the Martinez versus City of Albuquerque case, that is coded with SCSF. And so Mr. Griego was able to flag that and pointed it out. That's an administrative error. So I just want to make clear that that's based off of our legal management software. But what that indicates is Safe City Strike Force. That is not a Safe City Strike Force case. That's one of the cases that we've closed out on the seizure program that the council has been aware of. But I just wanted to make sure that was clear for both the council and for anybody tuning in that is not, that's an error. And we'll make sure that those that doesn't make it onto the next report.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any concerns? All right. Ms. Hinojosa, could you call the roll, please, for the vote?
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson.
Yes.
Votes 5-0.
Thank you. And moving along here to item C. EC 114, Revenue and Expense Report for the second quarter fiscal year of 2020. I'll move a receipt be noted. Is there a second? 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Thank you. Do we have any questions for the staff on this, or administration rather? Okay. We also have Counselor Pena with us. I saw you a moment ago and had to mute real quick. So good to see you. All right. So if you would please call the roll for the vote, please.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Pena, Counselor Pena.
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson.
Yes.
Vote is 5-0.
Thank you. And moving on now to item D, EC 115 is declaring 1701 5th Street Northwest, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87102, non-essential for municipal purposes.
Second.
So I'll go ahead and move that. And that was the second, I think, from
Yes.
President Davis. Thank you. Any questions on this one?
I have one, Madam Chair.
Okay, Counselor Bassan.
Thank you. I just wanted to know, in the write-up, it said that there was a suggested question even about whether or not, this should be turned into a parking space or just sold. Is there still a developing conversation about that? Or is the city's intention to just simply sell it outright?
Right.
So,
Wondering about the same thing.
Madam Chair, I'll ask Councilor Bassan to ask the question again, please.
Sure. We had a question pointed out that, if we declare this non-essential, which seems a valid point to me, but it was suggested, are we just going to sell this, or is this something that the city would consider, renting out spaces, turning it into a parking lot? Is it just one intention and we're sticking to it, or is that still something that's going to be considered?
So, Madam Chair, Councilor Bassan, so just one intention. So the idea behind this is that this is a lot that currently is managed by the parking division within DMD. It is currently used to, we park city vehicles that belong to the Parks and Rec Department, as well as DMD security and maintenance. Our intent is to move those vehicles over to the 6th and Manal lot, which is just a few blocks over, with the idea of selling this property. Now, when we surplus property, we actually advise all of the user departments within the city to see if there's a use for that site. This piece of property went before the real property board. The 4 individuals that vote on that voted it as non-essential and able to sell. We did send out the message to all of the departments. There was no interest from any other department. It's not a very large lot. The idea behind this is that we've had some interest over the past, either from developers or at least brokers asking questions about that entire block. Now, we don't own all of it. We own the southern edge of that piece of property at Aspen and 5th. And the idea is that once we would sell that, that the development within that entire block would be taken over by a developer. So we've had some interest from the private sector in wanting to, if you look at the Wells Park area now, there is some interest in revitalizing that, both for economic development purposes. And so the idea is that we would, since there was no city department, we would put this out on the market for sale. And we've already appraised the property as well.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you. And Counselor Pena, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Counselor Gibson. Just my question was, we have here in the write-up, have you considered turning it into a public-facing paid parking lot? It sounds as though the property could be, we could generate some dollars based on the numbers that we have here in front of us.
We have looked at that. There was a study done probably a couple of years back from a company out of California looking at downtown parking and the need for surface parking because we couldn't build a parking garage there. And it was determined that there isn't enough either retail or even most of that is industrial for the most part. And that the number of spaces that would be available to us probably would not generate enough income to keep it in the long term. So we did look at that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I have one last question for you. I think it's a rather simple one. It was stated in the write-up that some, and you mentioned yourself, Director, that some DMD and maintenance people, I think, were parking there. And so will they have other options
Uh,
to park their cars when they're at work?
Madam Chair, yes. We own the lot at 6th and Manal where the city clerk has the record center. So the intent was that we would use that space as well. So most of the employees that park there drive a city vehicle. So they bring in their personal vehicle in the morning, take the city vehicle, leave their personal vehicle there, and then go out in the field. And then they come back. So in one sense, this is a much more secure measure for the department because we're now moving all of those vehicles that are pretty much exposed in a non-fenced area into a lot that is now fenced. So we're not displacing the employees. We're just moving them a couple of blocks north.
I see. Okay. Thank you. I think we're ready then to take the vote. If you would, please, Ms. Hinojos.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson.
Yes.
Passes on a 5-0 vote.
Thank you. And moving ahead then, we are at, what was that? 15, we're at E, I believe. On item E, it's EC 116, lease agreement between the Regents of the University of New Mexico and the City of Albuquerque. Move approval on that. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Counselor Sena. Any questions here on this item? Okay, we'll go ahead and proceed to a vote then. Ms. Hinojos.
Sorry, Counselor Gibson, I thought I raised my hand. I apologize, I didn't.
Okay, did
I-
you have something you wanted to?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment on the workforce housing. I know that we're doing that Nuevo Atrisco, which is really great, but just looking at the amounts that have been allocated for workforce housing in the past, this Nuevo Atrisco is probably one of the few that have received dollars in the Southwest area. So I just want, people from the administration to really look at, where those dollars are allocated. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Pena. And we're ready to proceed with the vote.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson.
Yes,
Passes on a 5-0 vote.
thank you. All right, and moving along to F on the agenda, EC 117. This is the 2019 Workforce Housing Trust Fund report. And Counselor Pena, is this what you were addressing earlier? Okay, all right. So does anyone else have any question on EC 117? All right. So, we didn't move that yet. So So I'll go ahead and move EC 117, receipt be noted. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Counselor Bassan seconds it, and we are ready to take the vote.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson.
Yes,
Passes on a 5-0 vote.
thank you. All right, and the next one on item G is O29. Counselor Davis, would you like to take this one? Your ordinance?
Sure, Madam Chair. I'll do it. It's by request, but I'll do it. I'll make a motion for a due pass for O29. O29 amends several sections, articles of the city charter to adjust the dates of the exploratory period for mayoral candidates and city council applicants. It essentially allows candidates a little more time to gather seed money and change the time frame for all candidates to file their petitions. This is simply some cleanup language that we've been working on with the administration to align the charter with some of the new rules and ensure that basically we're using 7-day periods. In other words, so we're doing it sort of by weeks instead of by random numbers of days, which during our last election, for those of you who were on the ballot with us, know that some of our deadlines ended up on Saturdays and Sundays and all kinds of weird places. So with that, Madam Chair, I move a due pass.
And there's a second from Counselor Sena. Any questions or comments for either the sponsor or for our city clerk?
And Madam Chair, if I may, just before we go to that, we do have one floor amendment that I think we need to pass. That is a last minute technical cleanup from the clerk's office as well. And so I'd move floor amendment number 1, which is available in the iPads and by explanation. This simply is the technical adjustment for the numbers of days to, again, as I mentioned, to correspond to weeks instead of days. It doesn't make a significant difference to the amount of days or time that candidates have to qualify. So I move floor amendment number 1.
All right. And there's a second from Counselor Bassan. So are we ready to vote? Does anybody have any comments on the amendment? All right, we'll go ahead and take the roll call vote.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes. Excuse me.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson.
Yes,
Passes 5-0.
thank you. And now we're on the bill on O29. Anything else on the bill?
Madam Chair, if I may, just for maybe if for nothing else for the record, but I see Mr. Watson here in the conference room, and he and his staff have done a lot of work on the technical piece of this. Would it be if it's okay with the chair, could we give Mr. Watson just a minute on the floor to explain sort of how this bill will work? I think it'll make it easier as we move forward to full council.
Yes, good idea. Thank you, Counselor Davis. So, Ms.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and Councilor Davis. This bill does a few different things. First, it does correct just a technical glitch around the timing of seed money acceptance. Under the ordinances as they're currently drafted, you can accept seed money after receiving public financing money, which really doesn't make a lot of sense. We were also trying to align, or with the council, we were trying to align the qualifying contribution period and the petition signature period. Currently under our ordinances, they do not align, and this sets them both on the same time frame and sets the petition period on the same time frame for all candidates. And finally, we are just shifting the cycle slightly later in the year to potentially accommodate for any concerns around coronavirus. We think a slightly later start might facilitate door-to-door or something like that if need be. And I think it's under the circumstances is prudent.
I would think that's a a safe assumption. The more time we can give ourselves, the better. So, okay, then, I think that unless there's anything else from any of the counselors, we'll go ahead and take a roll call vote, please.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson.
Yes.
Passes on a 5-0 vote.
Madam Chair, this is Isaac. I was wondering if we could request immediate action. This is kind of one of those weird times where there's 3 weeks between council meetings. And we'd just like to see if we can get it passed on the 24th. I mean, on the 17th, rather than waiting till September 7th, it'll give the clerk a little bit of time to kind of get all of the stuff lined up and get everything in order if the committee is willing.
All right. So I'll make a motion for immediate action on this bill. Is there a second? Second from Counselor Bassan. Go ahead and take a roll call vote, please.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson.
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Okay. Thank you. And moving on now to item H. I'll go ahead and move this for Counselor Borrego. This is R18, a nuisance substandard dwelling or structure in need of abatement at 5609 Everett Road Northwest, 87120, within the city limits of Albuquerque, New Mexico, is so ruined, damaged, and dilapidated as to be a menace to the public comfort, health, peace, or safety, and that it is to be required to be removed. I'm going to move a no recommendation.
We'll just remind you what's just happened.
There's a second for a no rec.
Yes.
Yes. I believe we have Director Williams with us. Okay. And before we go to you, Director, was that Counselor Sena? Did you have your hand raised?
Yes, Madam Chair. I just, this house is actually in my district. And I know Counselor Borrego actually was carrying this because I wasn't in the seat when this was first brought forward. So my question was just exactly to Director Williams to clarify, because I know that we had talked to the property owner before, as this was before FGO last time, and just wanted to get an update as to what was going on with the property. I know that she did send in a letter. So I was just curious on an update on the property.
Madam Chair, Counselor Sena, thank you. Yes, ma'am. The Code Enforcement Division reports that they most recently spoke with the property owner back on June 22nd of this year, indicated that she would participate in this meeting, in this FGO meeting. Based on the announcement previously and looking at the screen, I don't know that she logged in, but since that time, since June, Code Enforcement has not had any other communication with the owner. They did conduct a site inspection Friday of last week and found that the property still remains non-compliant, still remains in violation. The owner has indicated, as was stated last time, as well as within the letter that I believe you're referring to, that she would like to repair the property, but indicated that she didn't have the money to do so, and that she reported to Code Enforcement back in June that she had 3 offers that were pending or that were on the table. But we've received no other information about that, nor have we been able to observe a for sale sign or a New Mexico licensed realtor involved in that property. Calls for service continue to come in for both Code Enforcement as well as emergency services. Most recently, the police department was out just last month in June. There have been 4 of those similar calls in the past 12 months, all seemingly relating to unwanted people or unauthorized people, trespassers on the property. And there's still an outstanding lien balance of over $12,000 associated with this site.
Counselor Sena, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to, make sure, especially during this pandemic, that if the funds aren't available for the property owner to make these adjustments, that we still do have a good faith effort of contacting the owner. And I know that code enforcement certainly has been doing that for quite some time. And it's really unfortunate that she's not here today to speak on that, because I do hope that we can continue to work with her to make sure that we can move forward on this property to get her the assistance that she needs. And from my understanding, Director Williams, that she actually is staying in a residence that's nearby, but owns this property. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, Councilor Sena, yes, ma'am, that's my understanding as well. That she's in the immediate area, living in the immediate area.
Is there a known address for her, just so that we can continue to make an effort in contacting her?
Madam Chair, Councilor Sena, I believe so, yes. And I will instruct code enforcement to continue to reach out to her, whether that's a telephone call, that's knocking on the door where she's residing, or an email, or whatever the situation is. We will continue to work those channels and see if we can't foster that communication.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director. So, so we have a motion and a second for a no recommendation. I think we're ready to vote, unless we're not. I don't see anything, so let's go ahead and do a roll call vote, please.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson.
Yes.
Passes on a 5-0 vote.
Okay. For no recommendation. Thank you very much. And now we are on item I, which is R22. Counselor Davis, R22. Would you like to take this one?
I will, Madam Chair. Thank you. I move we do pass on R22, which is a nuisance substandard dwelling or structure in need of abatement at 412 Georgia Street Southeast. It is so ruined, damaged, or dilapidated as to be a menace to the public comfort, health, peace, or safety, and it is to be required to be removed.
So I'll second that for you.
Thank you.
Any questions for the administration or the staff on this one? Okay, Counselor Bassan.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering if there's any updates on this as well, or if we can hear from Director Williams so that we can just be current.
Madam Chair, Councilor Bassan, yes, this is a property. It's a fourplex, a fire damaged fourplex that has been worked by code enforcement for about 2.5 years now, since March of 2018. We have been code enforcement has been in contact with the property owner. The most recent time they spoke with the owner was back in September of 2018. The owner indicated at that point that he was waiting on insurance money that he was going to be awarded as a result of the fire in order to repair the existing structure. But since that time, we have not had any additional communication with the owner, despite our attempts to contact him. The property continues to accumulate litter, as well as attract vagrants and trespassers, vandals to the property. The photographs that are in the packet, I believe were updated recently, but show the current condition of the site, which again shows litter and weeds and debris that continue to pile up on the property. Currently, there are only a little more than $430 worth of liens against the site, but there have been multiple actions by the city's Clean City crew to go out, roughly 8 or 10 since the property has been deemed to be uninhabitable and substandard. And some payment is being made on those liens. But again, as of today's date, there's no firm plan on moving forward to either, again, repair the structure, to demolish the structure by the owner, or to otherwise bring it into compliance.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks. And Director, thank you for that. So I guess my concern is if there, even if it's slow, if there's progress being made on the liens, is this something that we should consider doing without recommendation again? So that way we can make sure, is that what you already did, Counselor Davis? And I somehow didn't hear that, but given the current update, if there's some progress being made, even though it may not be ideal, maybe this is something we should do without recommendation.
Madam Chair, I would be open to that as well. I would be happy to amend my motion, however we want to do it. I think I would prefer, and we normally have in the past, that we continue to just move this forward to the full council so that there's a definite date that the owner finally knows they need to resolve this issue, or perhaps give planning some information regarding their alleged or potential insurance settlement. But at this point, as long as it gets out of committee, I don't have a preference how it gets out.
Thank you.
So then what is your motion, Counselor Davis?
I'm sorry, I'll amend it. Counselor Bassan's recommendation, we'll just make a no rec.
All right. So we have a motion, and I think there was a second. Was there a second a moment ago?
I can second it.
Counselor Pena just seconded it. So we will move to a roll call vote, please. Ms. Hinojos.
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson.
Yes.
That passes without recommendation, 5-0.
All right, thank you. Last on the agenda. This is item J, last one. R68 is urging the New Mexico Legislature to authorize an election on a proposed amendment to Article 2, Section 6 of the Constitution of the State of New Mexico. It may look familiar to some folks. I'm sponsoring this and with Counselor Benton. I'm going to move to pass on this. Do I have a second?
Second.
Counselor Davis, appreciate that. And we have with us Chris Melendres, our staff attorney. And Mr. Melendres, would you mind summarizing this for us? Sorry. Did you have trouble hearing me? Oh. You are muted, Mr. Melendres. Okay, wait. We still can't hear you. Try it again.
I apologize, Counselor Gibson. I was having trouble hearing you. Hopefully you can hear me now.
Yes, thank you.
This resolution is simply an ask. It proposes to ask the New Mexico Legislature to consider putting forth a ballot question to be voted on by the public to the New Mexico Constitution. Essentially, the Constitution of New Mexico was amended in 1986 that puts in place some limitations on local government authority to regulate in the area of what's generally known as the Second Amendment with respect to firearms in the city. This resolution proposes that the legislature allow the public to essentially vote on that question once again to determine whether or not municipalities or counties and local governments should be given the opportunity to impose regulations or to regulate in some sense in that area of the law.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Melendres. Does anyone have any questions or wish to make any comments on this? Councilor Pena.
Thank you, Councilor Gibson. I would just say that I think that this should be moved to the full council with the no rec. I think it's serious enough, or important enough, I should say, bill, that it should be heard before the full council. So I would support a no rec.
All right, and I'm fine with changing my motion to move with the without recommendation. Is that? So
I'll second that.
All right, so we have a second. Anybody else have anything? Okay, Councilor Bassan, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just, I struggle to see very clearly what we're hoping to achieve by this. And I think everybody is very probably well understanding that I am not in support of going ahead to allow the local municipalities to dictate anything regarding the Second Amendment, which is a federal privilege that we have. So I definitely would prefer it to go to full council, but I cannot support this.
Okay, I understand.
Madam Chair.
Councilor Davis?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the chair bringing this forward. It's a conversation we've needed to have in our country and in our community for a long time. I do think this amendment, however well-intentioned, and I don't think I would have voted for it in 1986, although I wasn't old enough to vote then by far. But however well-intentioned, I think it's shown through history that most recently that it really is standing in the way of cities like Albuquerque and others from doing what's reasonable to protect our employees, very simply, including our city council staff and the staff in the city hall, who literally have to wait on someone to pull a trigger on a firearm in the building at someone they're mad at before our police officers can take action. And I think that the amendment was never intended to be that way. And I think we've shown that we can do some very reasonable things in this city to balance those interests. And I think this is a good idea. I'm not sure how much hope I hold out that the legislature will take on this big fight and do the right thing. But I certainly think it's important for us to stand up for the folks in the city of Albuquerque and ask them to do it. And I appreciate the sponsor for bringing it. And I appreciate both the counselors who spoke for making the point that this is a big conversation and we ought to all have it. So thanks, and I look forward to seeing it at council.
Thank you. Anyone else have any thoughts? So I'll just say this is that I did this, had a very, very similar resolution. I believe it was in 2015 that went down in flames. Absolutely. Didn't stand a chance. But I thought that, this is worth another look. I don't have anything, no plans for bringing up any particular bills right now. I really don't, I just believe that certainly within the Second Amendment that there is room for for people the state of New Mexico to decide whether local governments can pass legislation related to firearms. Again, I don't have any agenda. I don't have anything that I'm lining up, anything like that. All this does is urge the state legislature to take a look at this again and consider putting it back on a ballot, statewide ballot, to vote on, vote up or vote down. So anyway, I appreciate all the comments, and I think unless there's anything else, we'll go ahead. Be ready to take the roll call vote. If you would, please, Andy, casino host. And I'm gonna turn my volume way down. Okay.
Counselor Bassan,
No.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Pena,
Yes.
Counselor Sena,
Yes.
Counselor Gibson.
Yes.
Passes by a 4-1 vote.
All right, thank you. There's being no further business, this FGO committee meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, and it's not even 6 o'clock yet.
Careful, Madam Chair. We're going to make you take over the next council meeting.
Thank you, Counselor Gibson.
And I got my volume down too long. Just keep smiling till you get away. There you go. Okay.